Unfortunately, we have to open today's show with an update on the car chase pursuit or motorcycle chase pursuit that went on in Rancho Cucamonga. We'll have some film of that in a minute. But unfortunately, the sheriff deputy of San Bernardino County, Andrew Nunez, was shot in the head. Appears he responded to a domestic dispute. The suspect on the motorcycle you will see coming up shot him. He was pronounced dead at the hospital, the deputy. The suspect is reported, as I picked up from Sheriff Shannon Dyke's press conference, was he's in stable condition after the horrific motorcycle crash. But we will hit the rest of the show, but extremely sad news. Rest easy, Deputy Andrew Nunez. Lucky Network, up YouTube. Check us all out. Of course, we'll join the Mighty Met KMT 1490 at the bottom of the hour. You can see the cartwheeling cyclist who apparently shot at a deputy sheriff is crashed. He's still alive. Deputy sheriff, I think, is still alive. All happened in Rancho C. We'll get to that in a moment. Man, talking about our generation. Get to that in a moment. Gavin Newsom, poor, pitiful me. And he's back slapping, black slapping. Catch that. Man, that guy's a train wreck. Vote F King Newsom, vote no for on 50. Katie Porter is a master manipulator. Find out who said that. Department of Justice to monitor Rivco elections. Wow. Some of the stuff. Vagrants are rising in B&B, and we have the latest dumb idea. But the lead story, as you see, the motorcyclist was in pursuit or on a police pursuit. He had supposedly shot at a deputy in Rancho Cucamonga or around there. It's going down the 210 around Mountain and Cactus is where this happened. Here's some, as we say, of the dramatic footage as it rocks and rolls. Let's see it again. Here we go.
In Rancho Cucamonga. And he just hit a car. I'm going to widen out here. This lady.
Man, we got to watch this again. Of course, he looked like he was doing stunts on the middle of the road and stuff on some of the pursuit I was watching. But here we go again with the footage. This is just before he's getting ready to ram into the back of the car. And, well, let's say there'd be an interesting investigation going on, but here we go.
Rancho Cucamonga. And he just hit a car. I'm going to widen out here.
And again, so far, what we know is the gentleman on the motorcycle is still alive. The officer or the deputy is still alive that he allegedly was shooting at. Here's the ABC7 shot of it, as you see coming on. Here he is coming down the 210, and look at how. So wonder why that guy moved. I don't know. Maybe he saw a cat in the road or something. Let's back that up a little bit. We see he's rolling down the 210 right there by Mountain and Cactus. Here he's coming. They're getting a little wider shot, and he's smoking right along. He's not putting around. They had another motor officer behind him, and you see he's approaching that. You see he goes under the bridge, rocking and a rolling. He's having a. There's the other motor officer you see. Looks like the other motor officer was going to try to tag him or something. that was kind of an interesting move that he got that close to this guy, especially if he was considered armed and dangerous. Now you see as they're picking it up again as he's cruising down of that. And again, look, he's adjusting, no hands, kind of like, hey, I'm Mr. Cool, playing Steve McQueen or Marlon Brand Flakes or something. I don't know. That's why I say this guy was, I don't know, he was a pretty cool customer as you go. Now you get more of the footage as we see him rolling down the freeway. There it is. There's that crash again and that neat little swerve that car took just as he got there. Again, the investigation was fun. Supposed to be an update fairly soon. They're supposed to have a press conference on the condition of the deputy. So we'll see where that goes. Trump, the inflation fighter, brought to you another by none other than by Harry Enton, live at 5. Gavin Newsom, story about, oh, he had to hustle. He was out on the street. Parents weren't taking care of him, orphaned. And he's trying to do the black slapping. We'll have more on that. Who really gets the welfare? That's been a much debated topic. We'll have some more statistics on that. It may surprise some, may confirm others, maybe worse fears. Where those SNAP benefits and who will really lose in the end. We'll have more on that. Of course, we're talking about my generation. Evil Knievel, 50 years ago today, at the famous jump on Wide World of Sports of 14 Greyhound buses. Explains a lot of the differences. Katie Porter is a master manipulator and would be no good as a California governor, her ex-husband says. He has a lot on that to say on that. The DOJ, Department of Justice, to monitor polling sites in these 5 California counties during the Prop 50 election, and Riverside County has been named as one of those counties. They will be monitoring due process and what it's really all about. Another, maybe one of the dumbest ideas, we already do this. California Union proposes taxing billionaires to offset Medicaid cuts. Emerson College poll with some interesting who's the top candidates for governor. Of course, vote no, no, no on Gavin Newsom's. Just F King Newsom. Vote no on Prop 50. Just got to do the simplest messages are the best. Well, this and much, much more on today's fabulous show. Of course, the tragic news that we just got from a press conference from San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes. Deputy Andrew Nunez was killed today after answering a domestic violence call. The subject that you saw on the motorcycle is the alleged shooter. According to the reports we have, the motorcyclist is in stable condition right now, but unfortunately, Deputy Andrew Nunez was pronounced dead at the hospital after this incident. Sometimes you just, it's, sometimes you just wonder what's going on in our society today. We'll bring you more if we get some more updates on this tragic condition, situation here in the Inland Empire. But again, rest easy. Deputy Andrew Nunez, end of watch, October 27th, 2025. Lots that we got to cover. Of course, it's a weekend. And lots of news stories coming on. Shock poll that came in of how Trump is the king of eliminating inflation. You see interest rates dropping in housing. We ran this part. Harry Enton had it. CNN in shock over massive drop in economic and inflation worries under Trump. See what that says.
Quite surprising. I would honestly, sometimes you look at the numbers and you just go, whoa, it kind of pops off the screen. This is going to be a contrarian take. What are we talking about? Well, you know, Matt was mentioning about the econ playing such an important role in last year's presidential election. The top problem facing the U.S. is economic per Gallup. Last year, look at this, 43% at this time, 43% of Americans said the top problem was economic. Come to this side of the screen, just get a little different, talk about 24%. We're talking about 20 points. And more than that, we're talking about across all of the different political groups, right? Democrats, independents, Republicans. We see that the percentage who say the top problem is economic has been falling through the floor. And more than that, you know, we're talking about inflation. The percentage of Americans who say that the top problem is inflation has also been falling, which is, I think, very much surprising given all the news that we are hearing about the economy.
It really is surprising. How does this compare to like the historical look at how people feel about the economy?
Okay, so, you know, let's talk about, we'll go through history, right? Let's take a look. The top problem facing the United States is economic. In the average midterm election, it's 35%. It's 35%. Look at where we are now. Again, it's 24%. It is lower. Fewer Americans right now are saying the top problem is economic than historically have said that the top problem is economic. So it's not only that the top problem being economic is lower than we were at this time last year, it is lower than we have historically been, despite all the news about how the economy is supposedly softening. So you just look at these numbers and you just go to yourself, wait a minute, there's something going on here with the American public whereby you're getting all this economic news, but yet the percentage of Americans who say the top problem is economic has actually been falling and is lower than it normally is.
It's fascinating. All right. How are people feeling about the shutdown vis-a-vis whether that's having an impact on the economy?
You know, the story of this segment has essentially been that fewer people are saying that the economy is a top problem than historically were a year ago. And so perhaps not surprisingly, we'll end on this note. Harm shutdown is having on the economy a great deal or quite a bit. Back in 2013, the last time we had this measure during a shutdown, it was 65%. You come over to this side of the screen, again, it's significantly lower. It's 48%. It's less than a majority. So what we're talking about here is, again, fewer Americans are saying the top problem is economic compared to last year and historically. And what we're seeing is fewer Americans are saying that the shutdown is causing a great deal or quite a bit of harm to the economy. So at this particular point, yes, it is true that perhaps Americans don't like the direction that the economy is going, but where it ranks on their list of issues has actually been falling.
This is fascinating. Thank you so much, Harry. That is a contrarian report.
A contrarian report from a contrarian.
So it looks like going into the midterm so far, Trump is in a much better position than he was in 2018 when he lost a lot of seats. The American people are still enjoying or feel good about the economy right now, which is the main topic on everyone's mind. So when you look at it, feels more confident. I would feel more confident if we had more voters or more Republican turnout on No on 50 to jam Newsom up on this thing, which he desperately needs. But again, we shall see how all the cookies crumble in this whole situation. But a little bit of good news on the Trump economy. People do seem to think, yeah, Trump's got his act together on it, and it bodes well going into the midterms. And Indiana just got on board, I believe, with the redistricting. So I think even though, since Republicans don't seem to be, and conservatives, center right, freedom and liberty types do not seem to be wanting to turn out to vote down Newsom, Prop 50, we shall see. We'll just see if they can make a great comeback, but there's a whole lot of story behind that. But
Too many dumb people in California, man. I swear to God.
yeah, that's a big amen to that, or they're smoking too many funny cigarettes or something.
30 seconds.
We'll be joining the Mighty Met 1490. We'll update the tragic news coming out of Riverside or San Bernardino County. Deputy Andrew Nunez lost his life today in a tragic shootout in a domestic violence call. We have some of the video from the chase where the motorcyclist hit a car. He's in stable condition.
Here we go. 10 seconds.
Support America.
No,
PatriotSwitch.com.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Live guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience in the Evil FBU Network, Rumble, YouTube, X. Check us out, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We'll get into the rest of the news, but we have an update on that tragic situation that a lot of us saw early this afternoon, where a motorcyclist was going down the 210 in Rancho Cucamonga. It appears a guy pulls out in front of him a little bit. He hits some cartwheels. That guy's the motorcyclist, almost a miracle, is in stable condition. But the sad news to report is the one who he was suspected of shooting at, or what caused all of this whole thing going on, was, see if I can get it back up. Yes, Deputy Andrew Nunez responded this afternoon in Rancho Cucamonga to a domestic violence call. He met the suspect that was on the motorcycle, allegedly, let's say. Gunfire was exchanged. Deputy Andrew Nunez, unfortunately, was pronounced dead at the hospital. Just came out in a press release in a press conference from Shannon Dykes just a few minutes ago. Absolutely tragic news to start out this week. Condolences to the Andrews family. We'll know more, obviously, as the investigation goes on, and we'll find out more of what was happening or why this situation unfolded, why Deputy Andrews was called out, and why he is no longer with us. Deputy Andrew Nunez, end of watch, October 27th, 2025. There's a lot of just terrible stuff going on. Good news, we brought it just before you want to watch it on iNewsWire. More people, majority of the people are enjoying the Trump economy. He's at a much better place than he was in 18 in the midterms coming up or at this point, which bodes well. Even though Prop 50 is on a glide path to passing, which is absolutely tragic for Californians, looks like Indiana, maybe joining North Carolina, Texas, Florida, and a lot of Republican states that will do the same as California. So net, if this all comes about, net, we should come out better. Let's hope the Republicans in the other states got more balls than the ones here in California, because it's absolutely ridiculous that we are sitting here about to pass Prop 50, the anti-democracy deal. We're going to let King Newsom rule California with an iron fist. We got to be absolutely flipping insane around here. This guy comes off with this story. This is in New York Post. Gavin's story about hustling to pay bills raises eyebrows, given his family ties to billionaire heir, which means he was, no big question, he was part, or his dad was a big muckety muck in the Getty Oil Trust. Getty Oil was one of the big oil companies, Poly Oil Company, even before, they were long before Chevron, Standard Oil, and everybody else, Phillips 66 Union, came out here. Gettys are worth Gad's zoots. Billions, if not trillions. Getty's had a problem with their trusts, as families do doing that. Gavin Newsom's dad was a judge in San Fran at the time. Story goes, he did the Gettys a favor by ruling in their favor on the trust. So Gavin's dad got appointed as judge or as overseer of the financials of the Getty fortune, which means Gavin was not suffering. And whether he was staying with his dad or his mom or whatever, yada, 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 and the whole story goes. He grew up in a house of wealth and privilege. Now, there's nothing, very few people do. Maybe a little bit more, but there's, people grow up very poor in destitute situations. Most people in America grow up somewhere in the middle class. You're not extremely rich, but not poverty-stricken. He was up in the upper echelons, maybe in the top 1 or 2%. So his crying the crocodile tears now, which can easily be disproven. Everybody knows his family was part of the heirs of that, gave him the seed money to start the Plump Jack wineries and every other business he's been into. So stop with the BS. Not only is he trying to do that now, and he's especially looking at the South Carolina primary, which the Democratic issue is predominantly black. Most of the state is either declined as state or Republican. South Carolina is a very conservative center-right state. And there isn't much, and like I said, most of the Democrats are black, and they are in the Democratic Party. So to win that, you need to definitely focus on that group. So Gavin Newsom comes up with this crap. Here we go.
It was also about paying the bills, man. And it was just like hustling. And so I was out there kind of raising myself, turning on the TV, started, just getting obsessed, sitting there with the, the Wonder Bread and 5 stacks of
Hey, it's like the white
peanut butter and
story.
He was not. And again, this is easily debunked. He was not raised as a kid on Wonder Bread, bologna sandwiches, and mustard. And whether he was raised himself or I don't know how his parents are that. Maybe they left him alone a lot or no, who knows? I don't know that, but he did not lack for money in his family. Again, his dad was a judge, did a good deed for the Getty family. They promoted him to overseeing the financials of their vast billions and billions at the time, which is probably hundreds of billions, if not trillions today, trust. So this whole thing is BS. But look, he's on with the black guys and he's trying to be black. He's trying to cater to that community. Oh, I'm one of you. I went through the hard times, had to eat bologna sandwiches, starved, had to hustle to make ends meet just to be able to afford to eat bologna sandwiches because my parents were starving me to death and yada, yada, yada.
Come on. Macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Me?
Yeah,
No,
that's it.
My G,
Like,
man.
every day in the backyard. Just
Oh, mac and cheese and that, Jesus. Oh, he's star football or baseball player.
bouncing the basketball, throwing the ball against the wall until the ball is just like fraying, man. And your arms
Entertaining yourself.
That's it. Whole thing. So just and
Throwing ball like this. Well, if you threw the ball like this, you couldn't pitch softball. And this whole I was drafted by the Texas Rangers and that. No proof of that whatsoever. But he was throwing the ball like this. His hand gestures are weird.
and then then this student that was shitty student is in the back with his head down, all of a sudden started throwing the baseball a little faster than everyone else. And started, make a few free throws because I was sitting there practicing 500 of them every damn night. And in high school, I look up in the stands, my dad's back up there.
Okay. So
And it's like, man. And then he's bringing his friends and you're captain of the team.
Shut up. This guy is just. And I just heard it again today. And it even goes across now that he's becoming a national figure. Chick I was talking to says, oh, my sister looks like, oh, Gavin Newsom, he's so cute. Oh, isn't he just adorable? My goodness, now it's spreading across, the cancer of California is spreading across the nation. Ladies, come on. Are you really? You just can't. You can't see past the superficial looks. And we, the retarded population, get beat over like a club over this. Something else. One of the things that, welfare, very controversial subject. You'll get, it's just all a bunch of minorities. Oh, it's a bunch of white hillbillies over in Arkansas collecting. Oh, This is a study by CIS.org in 2022. Welfare use by nativity and legal status. As a percentage of the population, who gets more? Well, now this is like a per capita study. So it's not, there's more legal residents in that. So yeah, they're going to be that. But if you actually compare statistics as they should be on a per capita basis, Notice on any welfare, those illegally headed households, 59% are on welfare of some kind. 52% of legal immigrant households, 39% of U.S. households of legal citizens born in the U.S. of A. Cash, same thing. The only thing different about that is legal immigrants lead in that. Illegal households are second. U.S. born citizens third. Food. There we're back to almost exactly like any welfare. Humongous percentages. Illegal headed households, then legal immigrants, then U.S. born households. Medicaid, same thing. Housing's pretty even, about a high 5% split across the board, but that's harder to get into. You got to have more money to get into housing, even if it's subsidized to qualify for the loans. So it's a tougher gig to get into. But this whole notion that, oh, if you come in, is it illegal immigrants or people that have come into the country, immigrated legally, of that, they're not a burden on society, hogwash. Balderdash, you're lying through your teeth. Remember what Sam Clement said. Figures never lie, but liars figure. If you take the raw numbers, yeah, U.S. born citizens, households are going to lead by a mile because that's the vast majority of them. This is the thing. As you bring in more immigrants, they're going to further crash the welfare system. They're going to be further dependent on it. That is not what you are supposed to come to this country and not be a burden to society. And this is where it's all going. Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen reports if SNAP were cut off in the U.S., Walmart, U.S. stores would have a negative operating margin. SNAP literally is what makes Walmart's profitable. At least I'm thinking he means grocery division. It could be the whole thing, but it would say that their grocery division would definitely then. It would be a big money loser if it wasn't for SNAP benefits. What do you think McDonald's and everybody else is doing? Now, I don't know. I don't give no financial analyst. You take Mark's recommendation on shorting Walmart stock at your own risk. If you do that, you're doing it clearly on your own. But the regular welfare is also corporate welfare. The McDonald's, the Walmarts. It's not only the stores. Now you can use your EBD card at Kentucky Fried Chicken or Taco Bell. And you can buy sodas. And we ran that last week. We'll probably run some more clips. And you take away my SNAP benefits, we're going to start shooting people. This is where we got to get back on track. 1975. This was one of the guys my generation looked up to. The one and only Evel Knievel, American badass. I think it was 50 years ago yesterday. He jumped 14 Greyhound buses at Kings Island on Wide World of Sports. Here we go.
Again, John Hood is there with Evel Knievel, discussing whatever you discuss at this moment. Evel Knievel is very intense. We talked to him a few moments ago before he came out of the van. And his total concentration now is getting that bike off the approach ramp, onto the landing ramp. And he's not hesitating. He'll go. Can you hear me, Doc?
The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. As you saw Evil there jump the 14 buses, sitting at the end, back up the ramp. It's what inspired me and my buddies back then in 75, in the early 70s, late 60s. Get an old door, put about 3 or 4 trash cans, convince 6 or 7 girls to lay in between the 2 ramps, and we would jump them on our bicycles. Because we wanted to be badass like Evel Knievel. We didn't want to dye our hair purple. We didn't want to cover our body in a bunch of ridiculous looking tattoos. We wanted to be like Evel Knievel. Or Steve McQueen, or hundreds of others. Johnny Unitas, a great Baltimore Colts quarterback. Dick Butkus, thoroughly badass linebacker of the Chicago Bears. Les Richter, right here, LA Rams, same thing, although his career got cut short by devastating knee injury. Ran Riverside Raceway, got appointed vice president of NASCAR. That's the guys we looked up to. Those were our heroes. Heroes were our dads, like mine. Tommy Brightcruz, all CIF player, 64, 5, whenever in Moreno Valley High School. Right here, used to live next door to me. Those were our heroes. That's who we looked up to. That's who we wanted to emulate. We didn't emulate somebody going bleep, 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 boom, boom, boom in this fantasy world. It was reality based. And it's about time we got back to a world like this. When you weren't afraid to take a risk. When men weren't afraid to be men. You didn't have to make stuff up like Gavin Newsom. Because it was there in living color. It was there for the world to see. And that's, you can go back in history, you can go back to 1776 and everything else. Those guys were badass. They put everything on the line. They knew most likely they were going to be hung. But 3% of them said, screw it, we're going for it. And we're going to launch the greatest country in the history of the world. A world of free people, where your property was yours. Not somebody's going to point a gun at you, take it, and give it to somebody else. So they can buy bonbons, french fries, or turn half the money in to buy dope or booze or whatever. this whole thing, we need to push the reset button more and just step back, say, okay, we're going to retool this whole thing. And we're not going to stop till it's done. Because there's no other way. Some local news other than the tragedy. We'll get to that in a second. Rousting retail thieves, a big bust in San Bernardino County and Redlands. A bunch of law enforcement agencies pulled in to do that. Good job there. Vagrants are growing in Beaumont and Banning. It's at a Banning news source. Maybe we'll cover a little bit more of that tomorrow. Moval cops discover illegal weapons going on. Good job there. Gavin News, King Newsom, no on 50. It's upside down in Purdue after car hit a wall, flipped over in the middle of the road. Trump tells DOJ, start focusing on what should be. You don't worry about the NBA. How about election fraud? Let's get that figured out. Drug and theft bust duo in Murrieta, cops say, so good job there, bagging the beauty supply stores. In Paris Biz, hit by Moval felons. Dude dead in another IE pursuit down in the desert. Stolen car, caper in Purdue. Someone posing as cops in Harupa Valley. They were posing as FBI agents of that. Yes, Gavin Newsom is that. Defeat Prop 50 for Charlie. The other, we really wish we didn't have to report on this one. In a domestic violence call in Rancho Cucamonga, Deputy Andrew Nunez responded. He was shot, allegedly, by someone who was later caught on a motorcycle, and he wound up hitting a car on the 210. According to Shannon Dykes, the sheriff of San Bernardino County, the motorcyclist is in stable condition, which is almost unbelievable. But Deputy Andrew Nunez was pronounced dead at a local hospital of that. So rest easy, sir. End of watch, October 27th, 2025. Deputy Andrew Nunez, Rancho Cucamonga. Deputy. Hopefully we'll have Kelly Victory on tomorrow. She had some plans today of that, but we'll get that pick up, and I'm sure we'll have some updates on the Deputy Nunez tragedy and more, and maybe we'll pick up since we didn't get as much time to cover some of the other stuff. So take it away, Sean.
All right, Roy. Take it easy.
You got it.
Bye now.
Mm. Damn it.